Hey friends, we're off to Arizona. Another trip. This trip is a trip for love. I'm going to call it the love of Shane. So we're off to Arizona to see Isley and Davian because they had a new baby boy named Shane. And Isley is a woman alone with a bunch of well-meaning men. But you know how that goes, ladies. You need a woman's touch. So off I went to see my baby. You've met Isley before. You've seen her on the cruise last year to Barcelona. And then Emmanuel, her dad, and I and Alex then went off to Sicily. So the funny thing about that trip is Isley had been talking to me about, trying to get pregnant, and we were discussing motherhood. And when she returned stateside and went to her doctor, she called back while we were still traveling to let us know she was expecting. So I felt it was only proper that I go get an introduction to Shane. Alex and I are on our way, and we intend on spending 10 glorious days in Arizona with family. The intention is to baby Isley. So at this point, Shane is going to be 2 months. And you know how that goes, you parents, you're not getting any sleep, you're tired, your body is still adjusting, and you need some pampering. So we're going to Arizona and we're going to spend the first 2 days with Manuel. And then from there, we're going to go spend the rest of the time with Isley. Super excited, but it is Arizona in the summer, so the temperature is hovering at like 105. This shall be interesting. When I told my husband this plan, he kind of looked at me and he said, "You still need a wheelchair to get through the airport. You think you're going to be able to handle a newborn?" And I was like, "Of course I am." Hey friends, welcome back to my channel, MBC Lifestyles Diary. My name is Marie. I live in New York and I love fashion, travel, and cultural events. And I'm asking you to join me on the adventure. Today I'm in Arizona. It's high noon and it's about 120 degrees out. So I feel like I'm in a sauna. And that's why I'm looking forward to the pool. So a few days to relax and spend time with Manny. And I had to keep reminding the guys that I am here for Isley, because Manny also had some meal requests that he was making. And I'd look at him and say, "Manny, I am here for Isley." So the plan is we would go to Isley's, I would be there, and Manny would show Alex around Arizona. So here we are at Cracker Barrel before I get dropped off to my love, Shane. He's such a good baby. And off the boys went to sightsee. Now, the one thing I can say about Phoenix is that the whole time we're there, I'm looking at this mountain range. This mountain range is called the Phoenix Mountains, which are located in the center part of the city. These mountains are part of the Phoenix Mountains Preserve, a large urban park offering hiking, biking, and equestrian trails. Notable peaks within the preserve include Camelback Mountain and Pistawa Peak. This community that we're riding through is known as the Verardo community, and I think it's known because of its tree-lined streets and large houses. So it's not too shabby. I also think it's a golf club community. Very pretty. And now we're going through, a mall area for entertainment. And as you can see, the mountains show up again. So this is a lovely desert landscape, which is nice to see, especially after Morocco. And we passed the Cardinals Stadium. So one of the reasons Manny chose to retire in Arizona is because he liked all the sports complexes that are there. And he says there's a lot to do in Arizona. And I guess there's a lot to do in Arizona compared to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which I hear is pretty dead. But here there's entertainment, there's casinos, there's all the sports, there's good restaurants, and it seems like the pace of life is easy. Also, on a practical side, the VA hospital is here, and of course his family, his grown children have established themselves here. So all the reasons that make a place home. Now we're looking at the downtown area where I hear concerts, big name concerts are held, and traveling Broadway plays stop by. The last thing they saw, I think, was Hamilton. And it's a flat landscape, and I hear that it's only this brutally hot in the summer, and that once the peak season of summer is over, it's very pleasant, and some homes have fireplaces which help in the cool of fall and winter. The other thing that's amazing about Phoenix is all the self-driving cars. This was fascinating to me. People use that, I guess, instead of taxis, and they're everywhere, especially in Scottsdale. Another thing that's interesting about Arizona is the areas like Sedona and Jerome, and also it's a quick drive to Las Vegas. So, and the West Coast in California is nearby. So there's variety, there's changing landscape. And other thing about Arizona is that there's wellness centers, and people do love the desert. But for me, as I've stated previously, I was here for Shane. And that holds a special place in my heart because my grandbabies are now 7 years old. So that baby stage, I'm missing it. And after helping take care of twins, I figured one infant would be a piece of cake. I hope you're enjoying this tour of Phoenix. Manny took Alex to the various neighborhoods and tried to show what was unique and distinct about each one. But the one thing that they had in common was that they were beautiful communities with large homes, and a lot of people from California were moving and buying up the property. But meanwhile, he was showing Alex what he had fallen in love with in Phoenix, Arizona. And as you can see, there's different style housing, there's different amount of land, there's different landscaping for a city that is pretty hot and known as a desert landscape. But there is variety, there's something there for everyone. And I did enjoy that in all of this surrounding, you had the mountain range to look up to. And Alex even got to see that part, because at one point then they went into the mountains to show the houses up on the hill. And of course, from that perspective, they also had the most dramatic view of the city. So you're on a hill, your house is nestled on the hill, and you're looking down at this city that twinkles like stars in the night. How dramatic. So from this vantage point in the Phoenix Mountains, you feel the coolness. So this is where the landscape changes once again, and you get a different perspective and feel. Because now it doesn't feel like the desert. It does feel like being in the mountains in a cooler place, less sun-drenched. And I'm sure you feel the heat a lot less. So instead of feeling like 105 degrees, it feels like 95 degrees. The one thing I can attest to is that dry heat is indeed different. I was able to tolerate this higher temperature in Arizona because it was dry heat, unlike how I would have felt in Miami with all the humidity and heaviness. But this is really beautiful. I hope you are enjoying the ride and getting a sense of all the different things that Arizona has to offer. The other thing that I felt was important in Phoenix was really to stay hydrated. Dehydration occurs quickly. So I felt like for once somebody didn't have to nag me to drink water. So here we are behind the self-driving car, and it's still freaky not seeing the driver. Your mind plays tricks on you, yes, there's a driver. But as this was going on, I was home with the baby and also cooking. So here I did the chicken that I learned in Morocco in the tangine. That was a delicious meal with the cucumber and tomato salad and feta cheese. I was pretty proud of myself. I got the flavors right. Here I am with Shane. He was a sweet-tempered baby, very easygoing. It was a pleasure to be with him. And the boys got to go and see Fantastic Four at the movie theater in Phoenix, Arizona. It was a good time for all. I was with the baby, and Alex and Emmanuel were running through town like they did back in Sicily. So we fell into a routine, a very pleasant routine. And sometimes I would get to join the guys for something exciting like grocery shopping for the next meal that I was going to make. I have to tell you that Alex was in heaven. He had exactly what he wanted, going out with Manny and coming home to a home-cooked meal from his wife. He's a funny guy. And there's Manny, totally thrilled to accommodate with getting the supplies. So the routine was nice because I had been to Arizona before. I knew what to expect of the city, and I did enjoy holding Shane and singing to him and helping out. I felt very useful, and I was glad to try to give Isley and Davian a break. So what you're looking at is the menu. So they had the chicken tangine, they had salmon, they had Puerto Rican lasagna, and everybody was pretty happy. And then as the grand finale, I did end up cooking a big Haitian meal. I made the griot, I made yellow rice and shrimp, I made sweet potatoes and tostones, and Manuel's favorite pineapple upside down cake. And while this was all going on, Emmanuel took the opportunity to take Alex out and show him the Westgate Mall. Boys will be boys. It was very nice, very homey. We got to sit down and have dinner together, watch television shows, have wonderful discussions. And there was nothing at the mall for me because I didn't want to spend money or get tempted. But it was nice to know where the nightlife or the activity was in Phoenix. But I'm telling you, in the summer, it's pretty quiet because it's so hot, or I guess a lot of people leave town. The summer in Arizona, I think, is the equivalent to the winter in some places. There's a time of day where you just don't go out because it's so hot. But it's okay. We were tourists. We needed to see what was going on. So it was Friday, and we came to the conclusion that the time to leave was soon upon us. We began to feel like we lived in Arizona and this was just life. But no, we were getting ready to wind things down. So this Friday was the last meal that I would be cooking. And of course, it was the griot that was requested. and we gathered together. I think there was like 8 or 9 of us together for this meal as we started to transition from us being in Arizona to thinking about heading home. I was grateful that everybody enjoyed the meal and they were very happy with it, and that we spent time together. So that Saturday night, my cousin Manny took us out for a wonderful steak dinner at Fleming's, and it was very sweet of him, and the food was delicious. Fleming's is my new favorite. I did enjoy the side dishes that they had, which was like the mushrooms and the corn brulee. And of course, as an appetizer, they had the pork belly. And then after that, we went to see the famous casinos of Arizona. I knew better than to gamble, especially at the roulette table, because I never would have left. But luckily, I played vicariously through Manny. It was a nice evening's entertainment, and I got to see what was going on. The funny thing is that Manny gets bored with the Arizona casinos because he'd rather go to Vegas. And I kind of understand it. Vegas is in good proximity. It's a weekend away. And for fun, we had Manny try on different glasses because he needs a new pair. And from there, we went to see downtown, what downtown was like in Arizona, in Phoenix. And we had been recommended a rooftop bar by Isley. I think it was the Blue Martini. But quite honestly, after that steak dinner, after the casino, I was glad just to see downtown. I didn't need to go to the rooftop. And we were thinking about things like packing to go home. In the meantime, we were looking at the concert venue. There were more sports venues down there. There's places to hear live music. We were looking at the trolley system. I think we saw the Museum of Art in Phoenix. So I started understanding what my cousin meant, that there was a lot to do depending on what your interest was. And at least you had choices in Phoenix. So that was nice to see. And then the next day, the family got together to go to brunch to this place called Hacks. And they usually have a DJ playing, and they're known for their drinks. And it was a pretty hopping place. And it also happened to be diagonally across Fleming's. So here we are all together. And I got to experience that Arizona mist that they put in their restaurants that have outdoor seating to cool you off, and it was quite effective. And I did enjoy the breakfast. So here's the Prosecco flight, and here's Prince Shane. Oh, he's so cute. Prince Shane and his mommy, Isley. So, we're getting a little sad. Everybody was teasing me that I was attached to Shane, and they were right. I do miss him. I do miss singing lullabies to him. Then, of course, after brunch, they had to take us to see model homes. This is something I love to do when I lived in Florida. So when they suggested it here in Arizona, I was just like, oh yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I love it. So they took us to a new community which had it's a golf course community, and of course it had a wonderful pool area, and everything is sparkling and new. I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed saying that, these houses, they're shabby, but if they were given to me, I would gladly take them. As I said, I would be happy with any one of those houses. It was quite interesting. And as you can see, the mountain ranges are closer here in this development. But that was really fun. And after coming to New York, I think about this development a lot. Life seems to be so much easier outside of New York, and so much more. You can attain so much more. But here we are going to see our favorite houses, and we each had one. What I loved about these homes was, of course, the spaciousness, the high ceilings, the modern bathrooms, and the in and out concept. Like you'd have whole walls like disappear or open up so that you could go from the inside to the outside. And now it's time to say goodbye as we drive to the airport to board our flight to New York. For as much traveling as we do, you'd think that saying goodbye would get easier, but it doesn't. So we strengthen ourselves with saying we will meet again soon and try to make tentative plans for when we would reunite again. And then starts the journey through the airport to our airline. The other funny thing is JetBlue is pretty big out here in New York. When you get to Arizona, it is not. They have to share a stall with somebody. But Arizona has a very nice airport. It's very calm. So it made the transition to flying back home easier. And of course, here we are in New York, baby. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Remember to like, subscribe, and share.